So I think paying attention to our gut feeling, because we've all been there where we've had like a little, oh, that doesn't feel quite right, or oh, I'm not comfortable with that. And that is like your own little internal red flag waving.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. If I say the word idiot, how many of your exes come to mind? No judgment. We all do it. We've all got horror stories of men that we should have never have dated. So let me ask you another question. Would you like to quit dating idiots? No more dads, no more guys who look great on the surface but are rotten underneath. Then you are going to love today's guest. We're talking to Laura Forbes, founder of QuitDatingIdiots.com. She's a writer, a creative marketer, and a life coach who helps women stop dating the wrong men and find the love they deserve using her signature blend of neurolinguistic programming, empathy, and humor. And today, she's going to help us spot the red flags that warn us away from the wrong relationships. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Amy. Thank you for having me on.
So I want to know about your website. What led you to create QuitDatingIdiots.com?
Okay, so I got into personal development about 14 years ago. And through my journey, friends and friends of friends would come to me for advice on their relationship and dating problems. And I would just basically tell them information that I'd learned from my journey and from the books that I'd read. And it just evolved from there. And we've all obviously either heard or said the words at some point, or like, he's an idiot or they're an idiot, you can do better. So it just kind of evolved from there. And I wanted a place where women could come and find useful tips and advice, and also read stories from other people's experiences so they know they're not alone and that there is hope out there.
Yes. And what I love in particular about your website is that it's not about calling men out. It's not about pointing fingers, but it's about taking responsibility for our own choices. Because how can we call men jerks when we are actually the ones picking them and sticking into the relationship, when it's not working? So what I want to know is, why do you think we date these guys in the first place? Why are we attracted to guys that we later say, what a jerk?
Great question. I think it comes down to, we can't really choose who we're attracted to. We are attracted to who we're attracted to. But what we can do is be more discerning about that attraction. So just because we're attracted to someone doesn't mean we need to go and pursue a relationship with them or date them. There's usually some kind of little, signs early on in a relationship or in the dating stages that indicate that this person's not right for us. Either they're not compatible or whatever reasons may be. And it's that choice point there we have to either continue blindly down a path that's not going to work out well, or to go, you know what, as much as I'm attracted to this person, as much as they excite me or whatever it may be that we get from them, to call it a day and go, I'm not going to go down this route again. That's one of the things that comes up with the coaching that I do, is women are like, I just keep dating the same person, just in a different face, different disguise. So it's about recognizing those patterns that we're drawn to in a person, whether it's emotional unavailability or whatever, and recognizing that's what it is and what is in ourselves that makes us drawn to that, and resolving that issue in ourselves first. And then we'll just find those people just don't show up for us anymore, and we can go on and find actual people that are compatible with us.
I think that's fantastic. I recently heard Ariel Ford in an interview saying that intuitive women who have a really strong intuition actually do really poorly at dating, because when we meet a guy, we go by our gut, and our gut gives us a yes or a no, and we go by that. And what we don't do is what is something that actually has a lot of controversy around it, is we don't test men. And there's a ton of videos on YouTube, how men test women, how women test men, and there's a lot of outrage. We shouldn't be testing these people. We should just be enjoying them and going by our heart. But actually, what I'm hearing you say is that really that gut attraction is simply, it's an initial indicator that there might be something there, but it's the process of actually figuring out, testing this guy, figuring out whether he has the qualities we need, that really makes the difference between whether we pursue it or whether we go on and find someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's hard because it's like your head and your heart and which one to listen to, and you get the attraction, but also deciding whether or not to pursue that.
You need to use your head. And one of the ways you use your head is you look at, obviously we talked about you have to identify your own emotional patterns, but another thing is identifying, of course, the red flags in the men you're dating and spotting whether or not this is a guy who, you know, a little warning sign that you can see beforehand and not get in too deep. So what are some of the red flags we should be looking for with guys?
Okay, great question. So there's obviously a whole plethora of red flags to look for. Key ones being if someone's disrespectful either to us or to people around, and we witness that, that's a little bit of a red flag right there. If someone's manipulative or controlling, again, that's quite a big waving red flag to run in the other direction. If a red flag can also be something that's non-negotiable to us. So for example, if we want children, then a red flag would be if that person said point blank, I don't want any more children, I don't want any children at all. Because I think some people kind of go, you know what, they might change their mind. Once they get to know me and how amazing I am, I might be able to bring them around too. And I think, let's just not do that anymore. Just take that as a big stop sign for now. So yeah, there's quite a few different red flags that crop up, but I think signs of controlling, abusive type tendencies are big ones to stay away from.
So what I'm thinking of right now, though, is that when we're in a relationship, especially at the beginning stages, we often think that maybe we misinterpreted something, or maybe he was just stressed out. You know, everybody gets stressed out and does the wrong thing. How good are we at actually, like, I'm even thinking of controlling behavior. Sometimes controlling behavior can come across as really lovely, like, oh, he's jealous, that means he really wants to be with me. Or, oh, you know, he's concerned about where I'm going today, that must mean he really loves me. So how do we spot these red flags when often we have all sorts of justifications for what we're saying?
Okay, this is a good one. So I think paying attention to our gut feeling, because we've all been there where we've had like a little, oh, that doesn't feel quite right, or oh, I'm not comfortable with that. And that is like your own little internal red flag waving. So what would be recommended to do in that situation is to take note of it, to not kind of brush it away. Because I think sometimes if we like somebody and we've kind of got a picture in our mind of who this person is going to be or the kind of relationship we could have with this person, the tendency is to kind of turn a blind eye to anything that doesn't allow that to continue. It's kind of called confirmation bias in psychology, where we look for the things we want to see in a partner. And if something presents itself that's not ideal, we can kind of, you know, wish we hadn't seen it and ignore it. So it's paying attention to that in ourselves. If we find ourselves justifying something to somebody, you know, a friend says, oh, he was a bit controlling, or I don't like how he spoke to you just then, to not justify that and go, oh, no, it's fine. Like, if deep inside you also think, you know, I'm not happy with that either. So, like you said as well, it could be a misunderstanding. So sometimes we have to have a conversation with a person and say, hey, when you did this, it made me feel X, Y, Z. Can you just say what was going on for you in that moment? And then judge by their response, like kind of gauge from, if they're like, oh my God, I really didn't mean that, I'm so sorry, it won't happen again. And then it doesn't happen again, because we're all kind of complex creatures. So we've all got our own little quirks going on, and there might be some misunderstandings in the early stages that, you know, could be a red flag that actually turns out not to be. So it's just being discerning in those situations.
So I really like that, because one of the things that I really see a problem, especially in dating, is that we often don't want to say anything to the other person. Like, the other person does something that didn't feel very good to us, but we were in love. And as you said, we've got those rose-colored glasses on, and that's, you know, hormonal. We actually can't help seeing this person as lovely and wonderful, because we're all, you know, got all this dopamine and oxytocin floating around in our system. But when you say something to somebody, even though you know it's going to be an uncomfortable situation and it might upset the other person, how he responds to that conversation is a really, really good indicator of whether you have what it takes to be in a long-term relationship. Because if he gets upset, like, let's say, for example, you went out somewhere and you waited for him and he went and got himself a coffee and he didn't get you a coffee or even asked you. And you're like upset because he wasn't thinking about you, but you think, well, if I say something, it's going to ruin our day because, you know, here I'm nagging at him. So I'll just keep my mouth shut and pretend it's okay with me, even though I'm really annoyed. And that's not actually the right answer, is it? The right answer is to say, hey, why didn't you think of me? And see how he responds. And if he responds with defensiveness and anger, or puts it back on you, you're so demanding, then that is actually a red flag, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can gauge from someone, because it might be an honest mistake and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, and explain why. Or if they had signed like red flags, then would be justification, dismissal, dismissing, or putting it on you, like you've done something wrong. They're all big red flags for you to then go, you know what, like this is just not worth my time and effort to pursue this with this person.
No, and one of the things too that I think I really love about your work is that it's not just about spotting the guy, it's about how to figure out how to end things. So I will admit, I am one of those people who very much struggles. Like, say you go out on a first date with somebody and it was a failure, but then they text you back and they say they really want to see you again. I have a hard time with that conversation, saying, actually, no, it wasn't really very good for me. I don't know how to see that. And once you've committed to somebody, like let's say you've gone out, you've been dating for a couple of months and it's not feeling good, it's even harder because here you've invested in each other. How do you break it off? So then, of course, even to add insult to injury, how do you know that it's not going to get better? Like maybe things weren't just working in the beginning, but maybe it'll get really good. How can you find yourself saying no to a guy when, as women, we just want to say yes all the time?
Yeah, this comes up a lot actually with women, that they don't actually feel comfortable to say no, even like whether that's in a relationship or a work situation or in a family situation, being asked to do something. I think a lot of women struggle with setting boundaries and expressing no without having a feeling of guilt or that they're going to upset someone. That comes up a lot. I don't want to do it because I don't want to upset this person's feelings, so I'll just upset myself and carry on doing things I don't want to do, just to keep everyone else happy. So I think that's, as women, something we need to work on our own selves, and it comes from just practice a lot of the time, and realizing things are going to be okay. Like, and I'm a better person if I have my boundaries, which keeps me happier, which enables me to then be a better person and more of service to other people around me anyway, rather than me harboring all these resentments and taking on all this stuff that's not mine to take on. But when it comes to the question about how to break it off with somebody, I think what you've got to keep in mind is, if you're feeling it's not right, then the quicker you end it, the better, because then both people can go on and meet somebody else. So ultimately you're doing that person a favor, because you're freeing that person up. If you know it's not going to work out, you're freeing that person up then to go and meet someone that it will work out with. And so that's always a nice thing to do. I think when it comes to having a conversation around it, I think to be honest, say how you really feel, and you don't have to go and list all the reasons why you think it's not going to work out. You just have to say, this is not what I'm looking for right now, or I'm not feeling the chemistry, or, I'm going to focus on myself and figure out what I really want. And so I don't want to string you along. I think it's perfectly fine to do that. And I actually know a beautiful woman, she was dating a guy, and I think there's like a little red flag. Her little red flag with him was that she was like, he's not really passionate about anything. And for her, that was a little red flag. And so she had a conversation with him, and he was like, you know what, I am passionate about something, but in my previous relationship, my partner used to like shut me down, and for her, she didn't want me to pursue it, and she didn't want me to talk about it, so I've kind of kept it to myself. And this woman, she was like, well, like, I'm so glad you've told me that, because that's exactly what I'm looking to see more of in you. And they ended up like going from strength to strength, got married, and have been happily married for a few years now. So it doesn't always have to be the end, and it can sometimes lead on to like a deeper level of connection and understanding, but you only get there if you have that conversation. So
that is so important, because one of the things you see so much on the internet, here's a list of red flags. If he displays these red flags, and end the relationship. But what you're saying is, when you see things that aren't quite sitting well with you, have a conversation. Yeah. And that conversation is going to give you the information you need, rather than just making a judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes our judgments can be wrong. Sometimes they can be spot on, but sometimes they can be wrong. So the best way to do is to have a conversation, and then, like we said previously, based on that person's reaction, they might say something like this particular case where he came forward and shared something and they went on, or the reaction might be completely the opposite and just confirm what you already knew, and you've saved time. Because like you said previously, sometimes we stop ourselves if something's uncomfortable, but we don't want to cause a disconnect or make a big scene, and so we just swallow it down, and then it builds. And so the next time something happens, we're not just reacting to that, we're reacting to the other one that we didn't respond to in the first place. So it just blows up into something bigger than it needs to be most of the time if we do that.
And that, I think, is sometimes why we call men jerks. It's because we have had all this resentment and all this stuff build in the relationship over time. And we blame it on his behavior, but really the reason we're feeling so triggered and so upset is because we never did anything about it. We saw behavior we didn't like, and we stuffed it down, and we tolerated it, and we kept our mouth shut, and it kept happening. So really, our perception of men as jerks has a lot to do with the way we probably didn't quite deal with the situation as well as we could have. We could have had a conversation. We could have said no and ended the relationship, and we didn't. So in the end, it all comes down to us.
Absolutely, and that's great because we can control us. We can't control other people, but we can always control ourselves and how we react to a situation, and we can control that and be happy.
I really, really like that. So you've got so many resources available out there for people. You've got a Facebook group, you've got one-on-one coaching. Tell us a little bit about all the ways that you help women quit dating idiots.
Okay, cool. So first and foremost, my first love is the stories. Love sharing other people's stories like the one I just told you. And there's a bunch of others as well from people that have dated idiots and then gone on to find either happiness just being on their own or with another partner. So I love sharing those because I think in the dating world, it can get disheartening after a few dates that don't work out or relationships that don't work out. So I think having that's good. I've also got tips and advice and resources to help people understand themselves better, understand the dynamics of communication and human relationships as well, which they can then implement into the dating and relationships. Like you said, I do the coaching one-on-one and also group coaching, where I take women on a 9-week online program to get to know themselves better, to get comfortable saying no and setting their own boundaries, working out what their non-negotiables actually are so that they can go out and actually look for what they are wanting and needing in a partner. And then obviously tips to navigate the online dating scene as well as keeping a relationship juicy going forward too. So yeah, quite a lot.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to check out all of Laura's resources and maybe try her one-on-one coaching, we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Laura. That's yourbrilliance.org/LAURA. Thank you, Laura, for coming onto the show. And I wondered if you had any last message you'd like to leave our viewers with.
Thank you for having me. The last message I would like to leave your viewers with is trust yourself. Just get used to trusting yourself, following your intuition and your gut. There's a lot of stuff out in the world that kind of trains us away from doing that. And after years of living just in the normal world, you will have slowly trained yourself away. So just getting comfortable and confident with your own self again is my message. And just, quit dating idiots and yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.